Sid, Will, I'll get you guys to make sure you're unmuted. And let's start with an easy question. How did you actually meet?
Well, how old are you, Sid?
I'm 35.
35, okay, I'm 37. I knew I was a few years older. But I thought we originally first met when we played together in Seattle. I came from like a training camp. But I remember we when I was in New York, you were in Minnesota, we played against each other. And there was, so listen, everyone, this is crazy. So I'm playing for the Giants, and we are traveling to Minnesota to play them in the Metrodome. And the dome collapsed. I don't know if anyone remembers that. The dome collapsed. So I think we stopped in like Chicago or something. We stopped somewhere, and they moved the game to Detroit. Is that what it was, Sid? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We met before then though. So I believe it was the previous year, the year you guys actually won the Super Bowl. We came up to New York to play you guys, and I think it was the turning point in you guys' season. We blew you guys out, and no one would have ever thought you were going to make the Super Bowl. And that was literally the turning point. From then on, you guys just ran the table and ended up in the Super Bowl and winning it. So that was pretty awesome.
So there it is. A lot of us, like, if we met, a lot of football players will meet each other on the field at some point. Like, for example, Jason Avant, who played for the Eagles, he hit me up about stuff this weekend. And I mean, Jason and I are both 37, but I played actually with him in a high school all-star game, so it's such a small circle. You eventually meet somebody on the field. So I'm sure it was either against each other or together or somewhere. So that's how we met, Yule.
That's good. So, I mean, it wasn't over a bottle of wine necessarily, but I don't know if you guys were into wine at that time, but how did you get into wine? Were you into wine while you were still playing?
I definitely, I was drinking wine in college, but I had no idea what it was. It was some nonsense. But then I was the
$2 Chuck, which is
no, actually it was Casal Garcia, Vino Verde.
Nice.
The stuff. Yeah, I got a little fancy, with it going Portugal. But I think I was like most consumers, right? You like either a sweet white wine or a fruity red wine. I was drinking Casal Garcia, or I was the Menage a Trois. Like that was my jump off. Like that was like. So yeah, that's how I got started, and then I mean, it took a turn. I was very fortunate to play with Charles Woodson, who was already a proprietor at the time in like 2006, and he's the one that really showed me like, hey, it's cool to be a dude and drinking whatever. He was also one of the best players, and he was also African American, so he like checked every single box, on the list for me to get into wine. So that's how my journey started.
How about you, Sid?
For me, I would say it was about 2008 in Minnesota, a year after I got drafted. We used to go out on Land of 10,000 Lakes, as you know. So we were out on Lake Minnetonka all the time, enjoying ourselves, and ended up going into the liquor wine store one day and getting a few bottles of Moscato. And it was my first time having that. And we actually thought we were drinking like, this is the wine. We drank so much Moscato over the summer. We walked back into the same store. The price per bottle had raised $10. So we were drinking tons of Moscato, and that's how I initially got into it. And then I moved to, I believe it was Pinot and another sweet wine, Rosa Regal for reds, and on from there. I really didn't get super into it until about 2019. And then once COVID hit, that was, I guess COVID was the catalyst for me delving in way deeper. So I ended up ordering a few bottles of wine, and I would post it on my Instagram, and the most random people would say, hey, you like wine? What's your address? I'm going to send you some wine. So over that 1.5 to 2 years, I ended up tasting about 300 different bottles of wine. And that's what got me really interested.
Yeah, trust me, I got your file right there in my cabinet.
Oh yeah, and I seen what Will was doing. He reached out and started ordering my wine from him, and it's been absolutely amazing. So He does all of my stuff. He does stuff for my family, my friends, curates packages, puts them together, sends them out. So it's been awesome. I'm fairly new to it. I would say I'm still new to it, but I've learned quite a bit over the last year or so.
No, I'm glad. So when did you go to Seattle?
2011.
Okay, so I'm glad you said 2008 because I think I told everyone else the story of when I was in Green Bay and we came to Minnesota 2008, and I think that was the game where we had the lead and Gus Farrat just like ended up. No, Adrian Peterson went up that game. So the night before, this is like I said, Charles Woodson would always take us out to dinner. So because Minnesota is close to Green Bay, we got there early, and our head coach gave us plenty of time to go hang out. So Charles was like looking at the list. He's like, "Hey, let's go to." We went to 7 downtown, the restaurant, and so Charles, like always, he would order a bunch of wine. I remember we had plenty of time, which is dangerous. You can't give us too much time to hang out because then we get curious. And so he kept ordering a bunch of wine, and we kept looking at the clock. He orders more wine. So at this point, I'm already feeling a little woozy. I'm like, well, we got a game tomorrow. So I need to be careful. I'm still young. And then we heard music, and he asked the waitress. He says, "Is there a club upstairs?" And she's like, "Yeah, they got live music." So we end up going upstairs, and we ordered more wine, and then more wine. And I'm like, I should have learned my lesson. Like, you can't be hanging with these older dudes because I actually went shopping with them one time, and my credit card was like, "We're done," you know. And so after that, we drank the wine. We go back to our hotel for meetings, and I remember I had the biggest headache, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm drunk. I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't know what's gonna happen." So get up the next day, and I am done. And I did everything, you know. I took IVs, I took salt tablets, I tried to drink a Pedialyte, all these things. And I remember out the gate, Charles Woodson had a pick, right? And then Tramon Williams had an interception. And then Nick Collins had a pick 6. And then I had a punt return for a touchdown. Like, we all went off, but we still lost. But ever since then, I started drinking wine before games. I didn't get wasted, but I had wine before games. But
There you go. You can't blame the wine. It's us. That's good. That's a great story. So was that your most memorable bottle? Was that your most memorable wine experience?
Well, I don't remember the wine, but it
Listen to Moscato for 10 extra dollars.
It was a memorable experience. I don't know. I haven't really. I get that question a lot too. I can't remember like the one that just did it for me. I think what messed me up, was I started getting certifications early. So I went from, okay, I like this wine. And then by the time I really got to have that aha wine, I was evaluating it already, you know, I was looking at it overall, but I don't know. I'm a fan of like Bordeaux blends, you know, that's kind of like my go-to, whether it's old world, new world, it doesn't matter. Oh, you know what? I take that back. I was just in London, as you know. I was just in London, and I was at this one restaurant, and I had I forget the year it was, but it was Yalumba.
Oh, Aussie.
Oh yes, Aussie Cab and Shiraz blend. Wow. Knock me out, and I was like, this is legit. Yeah. So that was the one that got me recently. So there's your answer.
Did you have a bottle that blew your socks off?
So I haven't had any certifications or anything like that, like Will, but I remember drinking some 2003 Chateau Margaux. I was drinking wine then, but I had no idea what I was drinking. I didn't know how to taste wine. I didn't know what I was looking for in wine. I didn't know what the nose was on wine or anything like that. So we're just crushing bottles of Chateau Margaux out of my buddy's dad's cellar down in the Bahamas, Sassicaia and Tignanello and all of these different wines. And now I look back on it, I'm like, holy crap. What was I doing? Just filling up glasses, partying, drinking, not even, excuse me?
Oh, you recognize it was better than the Moscato, right? Like, at least you were.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
Moscato's legit, all right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Moscato, I know.
I would say my most memorable moment is with a group of friends. We got like a tight crew up here in Seattle, and we travel and take golf trips. So they knew I was getting into wine a couple of years ago. So we were down in Palm Desert, and I had the opportunity to pick out the wine. So we picked out, I believe it was a Silver Oak, Dow, Soul of a Lion, 2009 Screaming Eagle, 2013 100 Acre.
You just went boop.
Yeah, so that set the tone for me. And so what made that story memorable wasn't only the wine. Screaming Eagle was absolutely phenomenal. I've always heard people talk about it, but never had the opportunity to try it. And same with the 100 Acre, which ended up becoming one of my favorite wines. And thanks to my buddy Will, I was able to get on their list. So very grateful for that. But the funniest part, we're sitting there. It's a couple of my buddies' birthday party. Russell Wilson flies in. We're all at dinner. It's about 10 of us sitting there ordering the wine, and somebody comes up and taps me on my shoulder. Look up, like, holy crap, what's going on? It's like, hi, how you doing? Wayne. It's like, good to see you again. It's like, yeah, I know who you are. So Wayne Gretzky comes up to the table to say hello. He taps me on my shoulder to come to say hello. So the next day, we crushed all of these amazing bottles of wine that everybody fell in love with. My buddy right next to me, that was sitting next to me that night, the next morning we were talking about it, and they're like, I can't believe Wayne Gretzky came over and said hello. It's like, what are you talking about? Wayne Gretzky? He didn't come over. It's like, oh yeah, it was the guy. He's like, who in the hell is this guy coming over saying hello? So he had no idea. And I was like, oh man. So we always get on him about that, not knowing who Wayne Gretzky was. But that had to be the most memorable wine experience I had. Wayne Gretzky coming up to the table saying hello, as well as being able to try the Screaming Eagle, the 100 Acre, which I've had a ton of, by the way, Will. Costing me a lot of money, right now. But I don't mind spending money on wine, especially when I'm having great experiences. And that's my favorite thing about wine is creating experiences for other people around you, your close friends, things like that. It doesn't even have to be a close friend, but if you can share an exceptional bottle of wine with somebody and turn them on to something new about wine, I think that's absolutely amazing.
I love that. You know, I always say there's nothing that will bond people or relax a room like putting a glass of wine in everyone's hand, right? Like you walk in, you pour everybody a glass of wine, and suddenly everyone's just like, now we can kind of hang out and be friends. But I love that story. And you know, Wayne Gretzky, since we're Canadian at InVintory, that is very near and dear to our heart.
Yes.
Cheers to Wayne.
Amazing.
So last question. Why do you guys think, Sid, why don't you start with this? Why do you think so many athletes are getting into wine? Because there's a ton who are making wine. There's a ton who are collecting wine like you. Why do you think so many of them are into it?
I guess we're getting older. Is that right, Will? Yeah. I think we're getting older and we're starting to appreciate the finer things. But I have seen, as Will mentioned, Charles was probably the first guy I know that played and had his own wine business, but came to know Damon Heward, Passing Time, Drew Bledsoe. They do an amazing job out here in the Washington area making their wines. CJ McCullough, it's quite a few people that's venturing off creating their own labels, and I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of people throughout my last few years, and I'm launching a label as well. So it's pretty exciting. I don't know the exact reason. It could be that we're getting older and we're learning to appreciate things. I always thought it was for old people initially, but now my friends call me sophisticated. They say it's different when I don't have a wine glass in my hand as opposed to when I do. So
yeah, no, I didn't think about that. Right, a lot of us are getting older, but I feel like too, like our generation, we're the trendsetters anyway, so it's moving with us. But I think a lot of it is like culture, lifestyle. It's kind of like what's happening, what's cool. I think that's what's happening, especially in the athlete space. Obviously, you see, the most popular athlete, LeBron. He's doing his thing, buying wines that most people can't get, but that he's doing that. And right, you're seeing a lot of people more comfortable, but I'm also seeing a lot of athletes who are making wine. they're kind of making that shift as opposed to, hey, I don't want to just put my label on it. I actually want to get a little bit of education so I know what I'm talking about. And I'm seeing a little bit of shift to that. And yeah, so that's something that's still ongoing and understanding. But and then obviously too, I mean, social media is bigger than ever right now. And every time I meet someone like Drew Bledsoe reached out to me, and a lot of guys reaching out to me, they've been drinking wine, you know, at away trips forever, for years. And so I think more and more, you're just seeing it more and more on social media. Everyone talk about it. So
another thing you said was the cultural thing. Like initially we would, I know for me and the guys I hung out with, we would always go to the club and party and hang out. And it was always tequila, vodka,
right,
cognac and things like that, which is a grape, by the way. So it was always things like that. And I feel like as we get older and we get out of that stage of our lives, we're looking for things of more substance and more something that can create more experience. So you don't have to be in a loud place, party and club. And not saying you don't drink wine in the club when you go out, but it's not the typical thing you do. It's mostly tequila shots and things like that. So I think people are, you know, venturing out. They want to create experiences. I know I do. I want to create experiences. I want to meet different people, new people, have an amazing time and not be wasted the next day or not be like holding both sides of my head. So that is another thing as well.
I will say people have been drinking wine in the close to years. They've been popping champagne forever.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
I will say, I mean, just based on Will's story, I think the headache can still get you with wine. So.
Well, we did move to tequila. I will say that. I left that part out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an important little footnote there.
For me, 2022, I decided that I was going to do all grapes. So nothing else, all grapes. And I come into my lounge and our bartender, our manager of the bar, who's absolutely phenomenal with any type of alcohol. It's like, I'm doing all grapes for 2022. So wine, champagne. He's like, oh, cognac, Armagnac, Pisco. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And he's like, pouring all of this stuff. It's like, don't worry, it's a grape.
You should have said no. You should have said no spirits.
Well, I'm interested to hear more about your label and everything you guys got going on, because you both have so much going on. But why don't we turn over to the wine? So everyone has the theme of tonight is kind of Sangiovese is what we've gone with, which is the flagship grape of Tuscany in Italy. Everyone has something a little bit different. Some old, some young. I hope those who had the young ones were able to decant it a little. Hope those who had the old ones were able to settle the sediment. But Will, why don't you start telling us a little bit about the wine you're having, and then you guys can take it from there.
Yeah, so you blessed me with some Flashinello. I am like excited about that. I know it's like blinding, but yeah. So can we go on a small trip to Fontodi? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
All right. Huh?
I'm in.
Yes, I got the earth. Take a trip. You guys can see all that? Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, Fontodi is like in the heart of Chianti. It's like south of Penzano, I believe it is. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I know you're the absolute wizard. So yeah, it's super cool, man. It's called the Concadora because you have that cool like amphitheater style. So it's like the golden shell, they want to call it. And you see it's up here pretty high above everything because it's known for its elevation. It's about 150 meters, I believe it is. And it's also south facing. So with the high altitude, you get the cool air, but also you get a ton of sunlight with the south facing slopes. So it's warm and dry. During the day, it's like they're cheating basically, okay? Because I mean, during the day you get all the sun and the heat, and at night, obviously the temperatures drop. So, and then you have the the glacier soil, and which that type of soil allows the grapes to grow down like super deep. And so it's all kinds of like crazy complexity in terms of like mineral and in terms of, like I said, how the climate is in the terroir. Also too, it's organic. So that's what's pretty dope too about them. So owned by, Giovanni Minetti. He does a fantastic job. And also I didn't know, Yula, that I think in before you couldn't make 100% Sangiovese. And so, you know, as of the past, like 20 years, they able to. So yeah, so what I have is I have the 2009, which is also a badass year over there. And yeah, I mean, I still have a little bit of like blowing off a little bit. Like it's not bad, but it's just like the whiskiness, and you get like the plum, and I got fig, and I get dried flowers, dried blackberries. I'm getting, like I'm saying, like because of what it is, I'm getting all these crazy things, and it's super cool. And obviously because of the coolness and how Sangiovese is, you get a lot of acidity. So that's what I have. That's pretty much like Sangiovese structure, bro. But in terms of like where it's at, what they're doing, like the vineyard of Fantoti, in Flashinell, it's where it's at. And Sid, you have the 99, correct? So I mean, no, you have this 18.
Yes, I'm drinking the 18 right now, and I'm not gonna give you guys. I'm not gonna share my screen and give you a
That's my job anyway.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Will. But next time I have to go before Will. He makes me.
So next time we just go.
Yeah.
There.
So I am having the 2018 myself. Thank you guys, and once again, thank you guys for letting me be a part of this. The invite, Will, and really appreciate it. So I am having a 2018, a little tobacco, leather is what I picked up initially. A little oak as well. So I'm not too versed in Italian wines. As I said, I just started probably 8 months ago, actually studying and trying to learn about wines. And I started in France. So France is my go-to. Bordeaux, like Will said. So I'm actually over here, I have my book, which is the Wine Bible. And I'm learning about Italian wines now. So this is the catalyst for me getting onto the Italian wines.
So Sid, I need to ask you, because everyone knows the one person who helped me was Charles. Was there a teammate you play with who really pretty much helped you get into wine, or was it like not until you stopped playing?
It was definitely after I stopped playing. One of my teammates that really enjoys it, that I still communicate with, is Charlie Martin. Charlie was on the team when you were there as well.
Yeah, Charlie, yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Martin, Cooper Helfit, they drank a ton of wines. So those would be the two guys, but it was post-football when I actually got into it.
That's what's up. And so in terms of like, are you collecting yet? Because here's the thing, like you said, we do go on your Instagram, and we are seeing like all kinds of stuff. And I tell people, like, I don't collect wine. Right now, like, I buy to try. And plus I get a lot of wine sent to me. So it's kind of like I need to evaluate, kind of give my opinion and see what's going on. And you know, it's a practice for me. But with you, I don't know if you collect. I see a lot of empty bottles when I
Well, I'm not going to consider myself a collector at this point. I don't even know how to collect. I'm so similar along the same lines as you are. I'm trying different wines. I have the opportunity to try a ton of different wines. Some friends opened some amazing things. I have lots of things in my cellar, but I won't consider it collecting, because at any given moment, I will go downstairs and have 2 bottles of absolutely anything. So it's a ton of different things that I do have down there. I think one of my fridges, so I have 4 different fridges. And thanks to InVintory, I'm actually learning how to track my wines and know where they are. They're located. Before, they were scattered all out through all of the refrigerators.
Organizing is key, and I'm the worst. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I know where to go, and I know where not to go. But sometimes I go get the key. So I actually stored all of them in my 4 fridge, like my high-end wines that are for like special occasions. And I took the key and I locked it, and it lasted for like 2 days. Now it's been unlocked, and I'm just sitting there opening the fridge and grabbing wines out.
No, it's funny you say that, because I'm organized chaos. I get a lot done. I'm very efficient, but it's madness. And I remember my grandfather. He was like, "Look, So you need some structure in your life. You need to be organized. This is before he passed in like 2011. He said, you need some structure. You need to organize. Because I get stuff done, but it's like madness. And I was like, all right. So I just married it. My wife, she's the organized one. But my point is, yes, I'm glad you mentioned inventory, because me, like I kind of follow, like, I like stuff that looks cool, that looks clean, right? So me, like when I buy shoes, I'm not like a crazy sneakerhead, but if it looks cool, like I'll get it. Same thing with like cars. I know nothing about cars. Funny story, when I first met my wife, her tire was flat, and yeah, we called her dad. I can fix tires now. Yeah, just even cars. But I'm always trying to find stuff, and especially now, like what I'm doing in my space, it is important for me to be organized. And also too, right, before I found the app, like I said, I do have a file for you, like not kidding. So the cool thing is, now with the app, like I'm able to like see what you're doing, what's going on. So that has helped me a ton, because I am doing so much, which is crazy. So I need to ask you, you started in France. Is that your favorite region?
It is. Right. It is. Bordeaux, left bank.
You went straight to. I didn't get to ask.
Yeah, Passeglignon. Yep, left bank.
So that's where I started. I started left bank, and then I moved a little bit to the right bank, and then I went up a little bit to Berg, and I came back down to left bank, and I'm back to the right bank. So I've been all over the place. But Italy, that's why I'm glad we have this, because Italy has been like, lately, it has been like for real it for me, and especially not just like Chianti, but also Piedmont, all the, Barolos and all that stuff, because these things last forever. And I'm gonna go back to this wine, because why I like Bordeaux blends, or why I like Tuscans, Sangioveses, or why I like, especially this one here. It's how can I say it? It's kind of like us, right? It's muscular, but we do have like an elegant side to it, Like I just did a Zoom with Steve Amell, and who's Canadian. Yes. And so he's owner of Knocking Point, and I'm on the board with them. We were talking about all that stuff, and he was asking me, do I have any like funny, not vices, but things I do. I was like, yeah, I play football, masculine dude, tattoos. I said, but I love watching Real Housewives. That's like that's my binge. So that's what it is. That's this one right here, muscular and elegant. So when we were talking earlier last year, you told me you were doing some research on like actually getting in the wine space. You want to give a preview a little bit of what you're doing. And it's funny because you were asking me to find you some gnarly grapes. I seen like Gruner. Gruner threw me for a loop, because I don't think anyone drinks Gruner right now. Like I love Gruner, and because I've been pretty much every Mondays I've been blind tasting training with Michael Jordan, not the Hooper, the sommelier, the Master Som. I know we already dropped Wayne Gretzky, so I threw Michael Jordan out there. No, not Jordan. Jordan. And I struggle blind tasting high acidic white wines, and like so Bruna, Albarino, Sauvignon Blanc, all that stuff. So yeah, you were showing me some gnarly things. You want to talk about your process or your plans if you want to?
Yeah, for sure. So like I said, I initially got the idea of doing a label a few years ago when I started drinking a ton of wine. Wasn't really committed to it because I know how much work it is, how much work you have to put in to actually do it. Mentioned to a couple of friends, and one of my buddies, we were enjoying a couple of bottles of wine one night, and I told him I was thinking about doing a label. And he's actually from the Walla Walla area, went to school there, has a lot of resources there. So he said, yo, if you want to do it, let's do a label. It's like, I'm in. I want to do something myself. So we ended up finding a phenomenal winemaker out there. And I have to tell you about the story about tasting this wine. So we're actually tasting different bottles of wines. Winemakers were shipping stuff out for us to taste. So we get to like our third Zoom wine tasting, It's COVID, obviously. Third Zoom wine tasting in. So I get this shipment from this guy in Walla Walla, open up the box, sit all of it on the counter. And like 2 days later, I'm sitting there watching TV. I'm gonna have a glass of wine. So go grab it, open one of them up, pour it, have a glass. On my third glass, I'm like, man, this is really good. So I send a picture to my partner. It's like, hey, this wine is really good. His next question is like, you do know that's for our wine tasting. All gone. Luckily, we had 5 more bottles. And all of them were absolutely amazing. Like I said, I was just getting into it and I couldn't pinpoint what it was about these wines that I really enjoyed that was so different from the other ones I had tasted. And I come to find out it was actual balance of the wines. It was a well-rounded wine. It was balanced, and I really enjoyed that. So we ended up going with him to make our wines. And I actually just got back from Walla Walla last Friday. I went out there to taste our Viognier, our Rosé, and our Sauv Blanc. So for this year, we're gonna release. We're gonna do 3-pack.
This is breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. Only on InVintory, baby. So we're releasing this at the end of spring. We'll be releasing a Syrah, Sauvignon Blanc, and a Rosé, and then our other stuff is aging in the French oak, which will be a Cab Sauv, Syrah, a red blend, and the Viognier. Yeah, so the Viognier is going to be aged in the concrete vessel.
That is super cool.
Yeah.
I do eventually. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready because I feel like I'm involved in so many things. I'm just not ready to have my own yet to separate and compete yet. So that's so cool, man. I admire that. And it's funny because when I first got into this space, I initially, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make wine. And I went around and asked a bunch of people. I'm like, what's the process like? What should I do? And they told me like you get the best grapes, you have the best winemaker, you got the best vineyard, you got the best label. At the end of the day, can you sell it? That's what they said to me. No, obviously, if some people just do it because they just want to own a vineyard and make wine and they don't need anything. But if you're trying to make it a business, that's what I learned. So for me, that's why I was like, all right, let me learn more. So I started being a creep and hanging out in wine shops, just back there seeing what people are buying. And it was so funny because guys would come up like, hey, you gonna buy anything? I was like, yeah, I'll buy something. So what I would do is I would go into the shop, I would grab like 4 bottles, leave them at the counter so they know I'm actually gonna buy some wine, and then go and do a research. And I was just like, man, I have such a huge network right now that there is something happening where a lot of people are getting into wine and they want to learn about wine. And my whole passion with wine is not the luxury lifestyle. It's not the brand names. I don't know a lot of brand names, but I know it's water, So if someone's like, hey, have you tried this? I'm like, well, where is it? That might help me out. Like, oh, it's in Rutherford, and I can get into the whole. It's probably going to taste like this, I'm guessing, depending on obviously what they did post production as well. So that's why, like, here I am being the middleman for everyone, and I think that's super cool. So yes, I'm glad you're doing something because I am the guy.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job. You mentioned competition. Everything's competition, obviously, once you get into the industry. But for me, I wanted to be able to contribute something that I actually love. So I wanted to be able to create something that would bring people together, an amazing experience, but also have wonderful wine. So it's not more about competing with Bledsoe or Damien Heward and Charles Woodson and things like that. I'm 100% happy with what they're doing. I think they make phenomenal wines and they're doing a great job. Very far along than where I'm at this point. I appreciate those guys, but for me and what we're doing, I just want to be able to contribute something that's really good that people can enjoy.
No, and I'm totally glad you said that because that is, I just got off a call and that's what it is. It's I'd say the word competition, but there's enough for everyone, and it's big to, you know, to add to the, like you said, contribute, add to the community, build all that together. You know, there's right now, right? We have inventory, we have wine MVP, we have, you know, your wine, and eventually there's going to be something to collaborate on all three. You know, I have an event tomorrow where, you know, I'm working with Jordan Winery and I'm working with L'Hermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills. So I'm always down to like help whoever, whatever. I have no issues like kicking a percentage or adding somebody in to build together, because that was how it works. And you know, like those are the best teams. The best teams are the teams that understand the final mission, that don't have any ego, that puts everyone's else best interest first, and that's how people succeed and win. So, you know, I love like that share mindset, because that's honestly really how it's gonna work.
Guys, can I jump in and start moving us to the Q&A?
Absolutely not.
Well, I control this Zoom call, Bill.
So everyone, you're gonna find out that I will throw like little jabs here and there, because I know how testy Yule can get, because she is the alpha.
Testy, steady as a rock, my friend. All right. Well, first, Sid, we have to know, and we've actually had a question on this. What is your wine label called? Because first of all, from the inventory perspective, we need to make sure we have beautiful label images so we get your wines in our database. But we also did have a question. What's your wine label called?
You guys will be the first to know. Trust me. So that's the toughest thing. We're still working on that, and we meet with the marketing team every single week. So we'll literally be bottling in a month and a half, 2 months. But that's the last thing we have to get is our name. It's so hard. We want to create something that actually has a story behind it, and something that you can create stories off of. So we haven't nailed the name in yet as of now, but you guys will be the first one to know. Breaking news on inventory.
There you go. There you go. You'll be the first newsletter. That's great. Okay, keep us posted. Keep us posted. And then the other, I just wanted to say something, because we talk about this a lot at Inventory about who's a collector, because you both said you're not collectors, but at the end of the day, everybody is a collector. There's no magic to it. And we always say that, you know, wine, it's not pretentious, it's sophisticated. So you don't need a certain level of knowledge or a certain number of bottles. So I think you guys are both selling yourselves very short when you're not collectors, because you're definitely better collectors than most people out there. And, you know, anybody who has any bottles, and as long as they're collecting.
I just have a lot of wine. I have to put it somewhere, you know.
Collect experience as well. That's all that matters. Like
I'm holding on to one wine. That's fine. I have one wine that I know for sure I'm holding on to.
What is that? Tell us what it is.
No, it's a 2019 Schrader. I'm not gonna open that right now. So
no, don't open that yet. Infanticide, as we call
2019 what?
Schrader.
Okay. All right. I just got a few 2000 Chateau Margaux. And 2010 Chateau Margaux, 2001 Chateau Lafite. So I'm gonna see how long I can hang on to those.
I know. Isn't it always sad when you see a drink window, and I mean, especially with the Bordeaux, like the 2010s that go to 2050, and you're like, I'm gonna be so old. I'm still around, but I want to know what it tastes like in 2050.
Yeah, I got one that I can have now and one later. And I'm pretty sure I can find some more online somewhere.
I don't know if you guys do this, but my rule is I always buy 3 of everything. 1 to drink now, 1 to drink in a few years, 1 to drink in, you know, when it's old.
Okay.
It depends on how much the bottle is. Otherwise,
that's is available. So one question that has come up: who's going to win the Super Bowl?
You know what? This is a tough one for me, because, like, honestly, I think despite all that went on, I think this is a chance where like the Rams might win comfortably. I feel like all the stars are going to come up. However, Joe Burrow has Brady energy, and he makes me nervous because of that. He has Tom Brady energy. But I like the Rams to win comfortably, probably by 2 touchdowns. I don't think the Bengals DBs have the endurance.
The Rams are definitely the more experienced team. They've been on the big stage before, but the Burrow kid he's pretty special. I think he's special.
I'm saying, man.
everybody, I put out a prediction like 2 weeks before the NFC and the AFC championship. And I called Bengals Rams Super Bowl. And I got so much backlash. Everybody called me crazy and talked so much trash to me. And then I retweeted like, where you guys at now? Where you guys at now? So I don't know.
Man, give us an answer, man. I don't want this I don't know stuff.
I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Well, now I don't know what to do.
Story behind it. There's a story behind it. I'm going with the Bengals.
I was going to place some bets if you guys both had the same answer and try to make some money off of this with your insider knowledge, but you're not helping out here.
Just take the points then. I think it's 4.5 is the spread. I will do that.
Rams 4.5.
Bengals 4.5.
Oh, Bengals got 4.5. Yeah.
They may not win, but they'll keep it close.